Welcome. You are at the CCC.
Where there are no outside issues. My name's Anthony. I'm an addict and an alcoholic, another bozo on the bus, and I care about you.
Yes, and I'm LouiLou. My pronouns are he and him. I am in recovery for crystal meth and alcohol, and I am always in search of balance. Yes, and each week we will create and provide us a brave space where we can engage in topics around recovery. Did I say?
And our intention is to hold and inspire better spaces for more. The music is so loud I can't hear myself. Yeah. All right, let's start over.
Yeah, so.
And our intention is to hold and inspire better spaces for more people in recovery by tackling issues sometimes used to separate us.
But before we do that, please remember to like, share, and ding that bell.
Ding, 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 ding.
And rate us.
Rate us.
Any way you want to.
Okay. And then now the disclaimer. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on At the CCC are ours alone. We do not represent anyone but ourselves. The material and information shared here is for general information purposes only. In other words, we're just a couple of friends behind a mic here to entertain you.
I know. That was like a fever dream. That music
I want to do it all over
again.
I know, it was so loud. I was like, I can't hear myself. Oh, there goes my voice. I was like, there it goes. Well, Brandon told me that he lowers the volume on my voice because I yell, and it's hard for him to hear on that sense.
And you raised it on mine because I whisper. That's nonsense.
Well, you're always like 5 feet behind the mic.
This one here, it's like I've been doing this longer than you, and you're like, here, you're supposed to do this with my. Get out of my face. I don't want to hear it. Hi.
That's how we're starting.
I love you.
I love you too. It's really good to see you.
How are you doing?
I'm okay. Well, venting earlier, I got some food in my system. For those listening, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. That is certainly a thing.
It's a real thing.
It really is a thing. I came into the studio today before we started, and I was just like venting, and I kept reminding myself that I hadn't had anything to eat. Well, I had food. I just haven't had enough food today. So I grabbed a protein bar, and now I have a pumpkin. It's like a coffee with some pumpkin syrup.
Oh, I like that. I've been doing that. It's like when I'm feeling extra basic, just add a little pumpkin to it.
He said, but pumpkin is delicious.
It is delicious, but it's basic.
It's pretty basic. I mean, I feel like it became basic because there was a time when I feel like I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm not a culinary historian, but I imagine that there was a time that pumpkin didn't have the fame and the recognition that it has these days.
Okay.
I mean, do you know different?
No, I don't. I have nothing.
I don't know if you noticed this, but whenever we talk, you make me want to shake my shoulders.
Why is that?
I don't know. I don't know. It's just like every time I talk to you, I just feel.
So if you're not watching and you're just listening,
I just like you make me want to shimmy.
Okay, it's well, that's cool.
You kind of remind me a lot of a friend that I have. Like before she and I even like talk, like just when we're on the phone, we're like laughing before anything has started because it's about to be.
Oh, see, I like that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what you remind me of.
And how am I doing?
I was gonna get there.
No, I'm good. Actually, today has been a lazy day. It's a busy week. It's Thanksgiving week. Yay! Right on. But I honestly, it's like I had like a telephone interview over some things that I need to work out, and I've just been lying in bed watching TV, TikToking, and waiting for that, and it happened. So I'm accomplished.
I've been taking it easy today too.
Yeah. There's something. I mean, it's radical. It's radical to do nothing sometimes.
Oh, of course. There's nothing more. Okay. You ready for this? There is nothing more anti-capitalist than like self-care and self-love and like pulling back from the idea of like having to be productive. Absolutely. Or the idea of resting so you can be productive.
This is true. Then I normally meet with my sponsor, so I'm all, hey, can we meet next week? And then I had another sponsor. He was like, we had talked last night, and he's like, I'm all, let's play by ear because of the call I was waiting for. And he's all, I'm completely like, I have so much to do today, and secretly I was really happy.
I get that.
I like when that happens.
I do. I mean, I've heard this said before too. I like it when people cancel plans.
Absolutely.
Plans that I'm not looking forward to, which is, I don't know. I'll stop there because I was going to say I don't look forward to most plans.
Well, you know what? I honestly, even when the only time that I don't like when people cancel is like if we paid the money up front.
That's different. Yeah.
That's but other than that, it's like I can change my mood instantly. Like I might be a little annoyed. Mm-hmm. Oh, you know what? The one time I don't like when before recovery and even now, if we have plans and maybe you're in a relationship or maybe you have another friend who you invite without communicating and that person comes and all of a sudden we can't do the thing we're going to do because that person's there, whether or not it's because we have too many people, too little, the person's not old enough, whatever. I don't like that. And in the past, the way that I've handled that is like, I'm cutting out of here because I made this plan where I will continue doing the thing I was going to do. I did not sign up for this.
Got it.
Maybe that's a resentment.
I was like, wow, there's a lot.
I flashed back to a very particular.
There was situation. There was energy in there.
Yeah.
There was energy. Oh, see, look, I'm doing it again. I'm shaking my shoulders.
Wow.
Shaking my shoulders.
Shake.
There's an episode of Reno 911. Did you ever watch Reno 911?
Yes, I love that show.
Do you know the one where they're on the beach and they're walking and she's like, God, I forgot her name, but she's talking to Trudy and she's like, Trudy, I'm gonna fix your vernacular. She's like, how are you gonna go say hi to those people over there? And she's gonna be like, and so Trudy goes, what's up, yo? Shaking my I won't do the rest, but you have to go listen to the rest. It's hilarious.
No, I thought you were going to be talking about when they were doing. There's a one they have it. It's just the dash cam, but she's basically doing like the sobriety check.
She's like kickball chain.
Potter,
step, hit, Potter Blu-ray. Oh, that is really good.
It's pretty funny.
So what's today's topic?
Today's topic is healing our bodies. Healing our
bodies, making amends to our bodies.
Making amends. Healing our relationship to our bodies.
All the same.
And when we were talking about this, it's like I can bring this up. There's a conference that I attended in Palm Springs last year.
Yeah.
It was Fourth Dimension, and there was a workshop on healing our bodies, and it was specifically about like our relationship to exercise, the physical part of the body. But you and I were talking this weekend and thinking that it would be really nice to kind of split this up. And because when we think about like the healing of our bodies, it's a mental part, there's a spiritual part, and then there's a physical part. So it's like, it's a great conversation, but it's like we can stretch it out.
There's a lot there when we talk about our bodies, and I think what comes up for me is that this is where we live. We live in our bodies. It's literally where we do all of our work.
Exactly. Wherever I go, there I am.
Yeah. That's sin, isn't it? Howard Sin.
Okay.
So I feel like maybe today we're talking about physical body. I feel like the other thing that's worth mentioning here is that it's also hard to talk about bodily health at the exclusion of all of the other things because they're all interconnected. Most of the time they are all interconnected. But like in talking about the physical body, and you were talking about like working out, what were some things that like stood out to you from that workshop?
Well, it's almost like the conversation we had with Manny about the way we approached our finances. It came from a place of like love, and you even talked about this about your sponsor and how your sponsor views exercise. About like it's this ritual because this is my temple and I want to honor it and I want to do it for the right reasons and not, So I think that what I appreciated about this was a person who physically, he was hot and he had an accent, but it was just so kind of thoughtful. And I felt like, and this is the thing, it's like every time that I've tried to attempt to go to the gym, and it's less now, but in the past, I was always thinking that folks would judge me and they wouldn't understand because I'm not where they are. But it's like he talked about like, doing what works for you, but he also tied it to, it was every little piece. He kind of communicated the importance of the food you eat, the this, the that, or whatever. And I left there feeling like, oh, you know what? I could truly make a commitment to it, and I still haven't. But I still have the paperwork.
The paperwork?
From
the workshop.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I've been holding on to it because it's like I was thinking, you know what? I I agree. It's like after what I had been doing to my body, like even if I just and where I'm kind of landing on is I think that I may want to start a relationship with yoga
Oh,
because stretching and movement and what have you, because that I feel right now is where my challenge is, and I feel like it's a it's a reasonable place to start,
yeah. For folks, if you're hearing feedback, it's not us. There's some, I guess, construction going on outside because I just like
it's a
I can hear
homeless or unhoused jamboree.
um, I have had a weird relationship to my body for, I don't know if weird is the right word to use here. And so we have talked about this before, and there's a part of me that, okay, what's coming up for me is I think about, gosh, this is a lot. Okay, so on one end, like there was the way I was treating my body, right? I was drinking and using, I was hurting myself, I wasn't getting enough sleep, I was, eating foods that were also really hurtful for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got sober, I actually still continued to eat. Like food became a way of like self-soothing without realizing that that's what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And what I am reminded of is how, like, when I started to slow things down and I started to think about, with like the help of sponsors and therapy, when I started to think about what's actually motivating this behavior toward my body, that's when things started to change, right? It's when I started to like slow down and think about, what am I actually doing right now? I have this one body that I have to live in, for the rest of my life. We only get one, and what is it? What allows or motivates me to treat it the way that I do, And the other thing that has helped me reframe the way I look at myself is I think about, I mean, not all the time, but I think about, if I was raising a child, would I treat this child the way that I'm treating myself right now? So would I order I don't know, let's say I have a 5-year-old, would I order McDonald's for my 5-year-old at 1 a.m.? And
I'm feeling judged right now.
No. Well, I'm talking about myself,
I know, but it's like,
there have been times.
It wasn't 1 o'clock, but it definitely was.
Yeah. I mean, there have been there have been times where I've been so anxious at like 1 a.m. and I will order a double quarter pounder with cheese with French fries, honey mustard, 2 apple pies, and a large orange soda. Like hands down. Because
I love their orange soda.
Get into it. Yeah.
God, yeah.
Okay, and that's what I would do at 1 a.m. And this would be, I remember there was one day I was like so stressed out. I had super duper, and then later on at night I was like, you know what, I need a burger, like totally. And I just had by the end of the day I had 3 burgers.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And fries along the way. So the point is that there are these things that I'm doing to myself because I like, I'm trying to comfort myself. And this is also in the big book too, with like taking our comfort is what it's described as. But there's also the way, and this is, leaning into psychological health, there's also the way I think about my body, and that's very difficult. If I'm being honest, like I think as a gay man, and or let me frame, like, learning from previous conversations. And the way that I think about myself and the way that I've interpreted living in a highly visible area, that is to say, where there are a lot of bodies, that are on display, either in storefronts or on posters.
And some that are literally naked.
Literally naked. I forgot about the literally naked people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a way that I feel like very hyper aware of my body. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at my body from like an external gaze, and the part that fucks me up the most is when I feel validated, affirmed, and seen when someone comments on my body.
Oh God, yeah.
Right. So there's this, and I'm gosh, this is, I don't want to tread too much into those waters, but it is certainly something that brings up a lot for me. Is this idea of how I feel about my body being based on how other people are seeing it, rather than how I feel about it in my own relationship to my body.
Well, early on, I mean, when we come in, before we really start doing the work, I mean, that's what informs us. I mean, it's like, I think, like we were talking, a lot of the reason why a lot of people hit the gym, because of the, how folks who are exercised and in good shape are received in this community, as opposed to someone like who I always joke and say, or I don't joke and say, I have made peace with the fact, and I had to make peace with the fact, that I'm not willing to do the work. So I have to fall in love with this that I have got going on here. And it's like, it's hard for some people to imagine that, you can fall in love with, not having this chiseled, like body that is, statue-like. I don't know.
Yeah. What's interesting is the assumption that a person can only love their body when it looks a certain way, because that isn't true. Like, I know plenty of people who, they have like statuesque bodies, who are always in search of more and who are very unsatisfied.
Yeah,
right.
The same people that talk about the self-love and want you to feel a certain way, and then also want to attack Lizzo for, this body positivity movement thing going. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah. I mean, I think about, it's our relationship with our bodies are, like I've said before, insanely personal. And our bodies don't exist in a vacuum. That is to say, it isn't as though we can only be easily in relationship with our bodies without taking anything else into account, right? I think something that's really interesting that I notice a lot is when someone goes to someone else, they're like, "Oh, girl, you lost weight. You look great." There's something really problematic about that.
Yeah.
Right. Just the idea that, and I know someone in the program, for example, who's lost a lot of weight, and they told me that they have gotten really addicted to the praise. And the last time I saw them, it looks like they lost more weight. And so now they're starting to look very sickly.
Yeah, exactly.
They're starting to look very sickly. But there is this way that like bodies are made invisible, and yeah, I had a conversation with someone the other day who, he has, I guess, a way of saying it is like his body is conventionally attractive. And he says to me, well, when I go to sex parties, and I see the person at the sex party who doesn't have like the chiseled body, I think, oh, wow, like that person has like a self-confidence that I don't have, right? That they couldn't embody that. And there's something to be said for that. You know what I mean? I think, okay, so where am I going with all of this? I think where I'm going with all of this.
I'm with you.
Yeah. I don't want to go too far. So I think where I'm going with this is that for me, it's very difficult sometimes to feel comfortable in my body. And it's because there are all of these other moving parts. Of course, I strive to be like confident in myself. And of course, I strive for all of those things. And some days are easier than others. And I think in relationship to recovery, when I think about like good health, like, for example, we have been surrounded by a lot of people recently who've talked about very real issues, from cancer to undiagnosable diseases to fatal diseases to all types of like scares, right?
Yeah.
And what that has put into perspective for me is that health is not something to be taken for granted. It isn't like, so what it's done for me is that it's started to make me think about so much more than just how people are receiving me, but like, can I wake up in the morning and like lean over without pain? Can I,
and not have to take a ibuprofen to get the day going.
Yeah. And the other part of that too is like, I think about how how we live in our bodies, and sometimes when like at least what comes up for me is like sometimes when I'm inside my body, it's very uncomfortable. So of course I'm going to do things to try to make myself comfortable, you know, and creating room for that too. You know, I'm not going to get upset with myself for having like overeating in the past. You know, it's like I was trying to take care of myself, maybe not the best or the healthiest way, but I was trying to take care of myself.
Yeah. So, you know, I feel like, you know, when we talk about making amends to our bodies or whatever, like we want to go right to the exercise and everything, but I feel like it's on this end. It's the advanced part of taking care of a body. Like there's the beginning of, and you started talking about it. Like I was a tweaker. I wasn't going to sleep for 3 or 4 days at a time. I wasn't giving my body the sleep. And I took offense to if another tweaker ever told me to drink water, even though it was good advice. And so one of the ways that I have been making this living amends to my body is getting enough sleep, is showering. I was showering. I'm a Virgo. It's like it was an obsession. I'm showering. I'm going to the doctor and making sure that I'm checking on my blood pressure, things of that nature. Because
absolutely.
I remember there was a situation where I was having these terrible headaches, and I didn't know what was going on, and I was trying to drink water and whatever. And I went to one of the free clinics, and they said that my blood pressure was through the roof. And I remember the words ringing through my ears. That's like, when you reach a certain age, the age that I am now, that you're at the risk of like stroke and heart attack. And so you got to get that together. But the things I was doing was not kind of promoting or supporting me being healthy.
Let me tell you 2 stories within the last year. A few months ago, so within 12 months, okay? In one of the places that I consult, there was a person. Did I tell you this story already? Maybe never on air. So there was this person. She woke up and she was having head pain. Like she was having pain. And my understanding is that her partner says to her, "You need to go to the doctor." And instead of going to the doctor, she was like, "No, I'm going to push through. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to go to work." She had prioritized work. So she goes to work. She's at work. The day ends. She doesn't go home. And her partner is like wondering where she is. Well, the long and the short of it is that she ended up passing out. She hit her head against the wall and she died at work. Oh. Her body was found like hours later. Fast forward, recently there's this other place where this woman and her husband, so this is now the husband. So the husband had just had like, I think it was like some type of surgery, and he wasn't supposed to be unaccompanied after he left the hospital. She decided she was going to go to work instead of drive with him or whatever. He decides to drive, dies on the car ride home.
Damn.
Yeah. So those 2 things have happened within the last 12 months, and it gives me chills, but it makes me think about how it is that, like, I think about the things that I pushed through. And, you were talking about going to the hospital. It makes me think about the things that I pushed through, and like all the many different ways that I rationalize, like, oh no, like I need to like I need to not sleep in order to get this done, or I need to push through this pain in order to, and that's such fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
It's such bullshit. Like, and also like the prioritizing of like productivity over relationships over my health, which is something that I used to do for such a long time. I remember when Obama won the first election, I was like working on an assignment and I had pushed through. And meanwhile, everywhere outside of me, it was this historical event. And I was living in Oakland at the time, and there were people cheering in the street, and I didn't go outside because I was like, I have to get this done. Mm-hmm. I mean, not exactly the same thing, but but the idea.
My catchphrase was, "I can do that. We have a black president." I said that every time I open my mouth, I can do that. We have a black president. I'm sorry. I had to go there.
No, I love it. I love it. If you're listening in and anything's resonating with you, if you have any thoughts about your own body, your own relationship to your body, what it means to make an amends to your body, etc., please share.
Yes, exactly. And go onto all of our sites and please rate us. Let us,
even if they're bad, you said.
Even if they're because they're very valuable.
If they're bad, I'd much rather you sent us an email.
No, we have a comment.
Oh, let's see it. Jaylon writes, when it comes to physical health, what I struggle with is motivation. As with most areas of my life, self-motivation tends to show up with me learning at the speed of consequences or pain. Physical health is just another area where I have to apply the principles of compassion, open-mindedness, and willingness. However, none of that is possible if my mental health is not intact. Thank you, Jaylon. I have some thoughts on this.
Yes, thank you, Jaylon. And also, Jalen and I, we were focused on our physical health when we ate those tacos on Sunday.
Ooh,
hey,
what kind of tacos?
Mine was a chorizo supreme, and then I think Jalen had chicken.
Oh, I fuck with chorizo.
Oh, I love it. It's like
I said that really weird.
At Taco Boys, I have chorizo everything.
I should have said chorizo.
Chorizo.
So
Telemundo. Oh, we can't say that. They're in trouble now.
Oh, are they? What did they do?
I think that they let someone go for his. It's probably tied to something political.
We'll Google it.
Yeah, we'll Google it.
So I want to comment on Jaylon's comment on your comment. So it's interesting. What I love about like what Jaylon wrote is this idea of self-motivation. And I know perhaps, Jaylon, you didn't mean to like put any self-blame there. What I am thinking of is what is motivation and like where does it come from and how do we get it, right? And I'm reminded of all the different things that wear me out, right? So if I can think kind of like globally, theoretically, and I can think about like systemic oppression and racism and classism and all those things, right? And how that can be very taxing. I can think about, I have a job and, I have to show up to work and all the hours I have to work.
How do we make it through the day with all of this stuff?
Right, exactly. And so how there are all of these different things, And there's, what does it mean to be an addict and an alcoholic and the implications that has for my motivation, right? And so there is a way that I think a lot of people blame themselves for feeling like they can't self-motivate. And I think my response to that is motivation is something that can be taught and can be learned. And a lot of us are not taught how to self-motivate. It is not something, for maybe there are some people for whom that is like.
Talk more about how you would teach
self-motivation. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So there are a bunch of different ways of motivating ourselves.
This is for me and coworkers at work. Screw you guys. I need to know.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different ways of motivating ourselves. There's implicit motivation. There's extrinsic motivation and implicit motivation. So basically there's like the internal motivator. So we have motivation that comes from inside of us. And then there's the motivation that comes from outside of us. So you might be motivated to make a check, right? That's outside of you. Or you might be motivated by your values. That's inside of you.
Okay.
Right. So those are two different types of motivation. And those two different types of motivation, they work in different scenarios, right? Mm-hmm. And so, for example, if we wanted to start going to the gym more often, right? So there's three parts to this. I'm like giving
no, it's good.
A personal lesson on motivation. So you have what's called cue, reward, and desire. Mm-hmm. So you have the thing that cues you. So a cue might be, an example that's often given is like, if you want to start going into the gym, what you can do is you can just set your gym sneakers by your door. That's all you're doing. You don't have to get up. You're just going to set them by your door. That's it. I'm putting my gym shoes by my door. That's how you just set them by your door. That's it. Then the following day you wake up, you can put them on or you don't have to, but you have it there. Now you're thinking about it. Okay. So one day you can decide, all right, I'm going to put the shoes on and I'm just going to go for a little bit of a walk. That's it. I'm just going to go for a little bit of a walk. And then you go for that walk and then you reward yourself. And you go, okay, I'm going to play a game.
With cake.
This is like the fast and dirty. I hope I'm getting this right. I haven't talked about this in a while, but so you reward yourself with something. So what ends up happening is you have the cue, you do the thing, and then you reward yourself. And then over time, what ends up happening is that then you're able to, have you ever heard of like the 3-second rule? Not the 3 second. Is it the 3-second rule or the 10-second?
Something on the floor?
No, but so basically what you can do is you can trick your mind, or rather, so let me give you some context for this. So the brain is very interesting. I like to think that the brain is, for as complex as the brain is actually quite basic. So the way I like to think about the thinking and motivation is that our brain is really this kind of massive body of water that has all this potential energy, and it's constantly moving, right? And so we might see a body of water in there, and a body of water, like, we can shape it, right? We can build dams, we can do all of this stuff. That doesn't necessarily change the water, we're just directing the water, right? And so similarly, we can do that with our brains.
Okay.
So if, for example, if you're trying to motivate yourself to do something, one of the things that we know is that you can, just by physically doing something. So writing gratitude lists, for example, that is an example of shifting the water, right? You're literally taking your brain and you're putting effort into focusing on something else. And if you do that long enough, that'll be the natural reaction to how we handle things. And so similarly, it's like, if I can get my body, right? And so the Buddhists, I think they say it takes like 30 days or something like that. And there are different ideas about how long it takes to form a habit. But if you can get yourself to do something just for a couple of seconds, you can get the momentum going. So the 10-second rule, I think it's the 10-second rule, the 3-minute rule, is for folks with ADHD, a common intervention is, you tell yourself, you know what, I'm only going to do this for 3 minutes. So you set a timer. I'm only going to wash my dishes for 3 minutes. You set a timer, 3 minutes. You trick your brain, right? Because I'm only doing it for 3 minutes. Anyone can do anything for 3 minutes. And what happens? The 3 minutes goes by, but you've already started and you've established a momentum. So it's the same thing with anything else, right? But the hard part is like that initial push, right? And so there's so many different ways of getting past the initial push. And that's just one way of looking at motivation.
Where does as if fit in there?
What do you mean?
Working as
yeah.
Where does that fit in?
That's excellent. So acting as if, I think, is one way of shifting like our internal experience, right? So the brain has no way of distinguishing, or rather, when we fantasize about something or we do something, that reads the same way in our brains, right? So when we're acting as if, we're getting things ignited in our brain, right? So one of the, what this reminds me of, for example, is, you know, one of the things that we tell people, by we, I mean like clinicians or like researchers, is one of the worst things, maybe let me pull off of the word worse. A thing that's not necessarily advised is, if you have a goal or you have this thing that you're excited about, it's best not to share it immediately. Many different opinions about this. It's best not to share it immediately, because one of the things that happens when you share a goal or like this thing that you're about to do is that it reads in the brain as you'll ignite a reward and you'll get a little bit of a high from it. And so it takes away like the oomph that you could have in order to achieve that thing. So it's better to, like, once you've started, you can have accountability systems and like that.
No, right on.
Yeah, this is a really interesting talk. Motivation is something like I've given talks on motivation before, and like I've written stuff on motivation. But the takeaway, going back to Jaylon's thing, is that, you know, motivation is not something you should beat yourself up over. Their motivation is very, it's as at the same time complex and simple, and blame doesn't do anything for us. Especially
in our situation, we get to give ourselves grace, because it's like the fact that I'm not drinking or using anymore. I mean, because I was stuck in the obsession. I had that obsession, you know, and the fact that I have recovered from that hopeless state of mind and body, you know, that and the rest is going to come.
You know, I heard this great speaker a few years ago that said, you know, we can't, I don't like speaking in absolutes. I'm quoting someone else. He said, as like people in recovery, we can't wait for the inspiration to go to a meeting. We can't wait until we feel good to pray. Like there is a bit of grit. There's a bit of, when we talk about aligning our will with God's will, and like that is the proper use of will. The proper use of will would be, for example, like, I can't wait for the right moment to pray. So I'm going to use my will to like force myself to pray, even if it's like just a couple lines, right? Or
just a couple.
You know what I mean? It's just
a couple lines.
Yeah, just a couple lines. Like, hey, God.
I've never stopped on a couple lines.
Yeah, but
you're slow.
Yeah. I'm like, I know. It was the river. It was hard to refocus the river.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, we can't. I forget how the quote goes, but it says inspiration finds people who are at work. Inspiration, and so we have to get. There has to be a little bit of movement. That's why we say in the third step we talk about willingness. Yeah. All we need is to be willing to be willing. Yeah. That's all you need. And I think that is like the recovery way of saying like getting the momentum started. You just need a little hole in the armor.
Can we go back to acting as if? Like, I think it's important to talk about like the difference between acting as if and being dishonest. Because I think that like some people, like when I think about acting as if, like it's something that I really want to do, that I'm passionate about, but I'm learning how to get there. And so for me, acting as if is doing the work. Like if my sponsor gives me an assignment, doing the work, even if I don't feel it right now. Like right now, I have a sponsor who's struggling with this concept of higher power, and I'm challenging them to, based on, I do this assignment where you create a Craigslist ad for what you want. And I've been trying.
And God, or
like what you're looking for in a higher power. And then I also, it is important that if you feel like your problems are too big or too great for this higher power, then that higher power
needs to be bigger.
Needs to be much bigger. But in doing that, it wasn't like, no, you don't have to believe in anything else. It's like, I want you to believe in what you want to believe in, meaning you said this is what you need, and now it's time to build a relationship with that thing that you wanted. And that to me is the acting as if. I may not feel it completely, but I'm working at it. It's kind of like the varietal, like they talk about in that on page 416, I believe. It's like not having contempt
prior to investigation.
Yeah, but it's like some of us have spiritual experiences of the educational type, where it's like over a period of time.
Yeah. So, okay, couple things that come up for me. So I think it's in the big book. It's like a footnote of a footnote, but basically it says that you don't have to believe in God. It doesn't matter if you believe in God or if it's real. What is the impact of believing in God?
Yeah.
How does that change people? And so for some people to believe in God, that is a source of motivation. It shapes their behavior for the better, right? So similarly, this reminds me of this experience I had in undergrad. It was this philosophy class, so just follow me for a second. So there was this girl who, she was quoting the professor, and she says, but you said that we needed to do this. And the professor says, it doesn't matter if I said it. Is it true? Is it true? Like, never mind who said it, never mind what was said. Is what was said true? Right? And so when I think about God, or I think about like acting as if, it doesn't matter if it's true. What is the impact of doing the thing or believing the thing, right? So if, for example, you're in a room of people that you despise, but you act as if you like them, what is the impact of that? Is the outcome positive? Is it good for you? Probably. You know what I mean? Never mind if it feels disingenuous. Are you causing less harm? Okay, well, maybe that's something that's like worth noticing, right? There's this I hope I don't ruin the expression, but there's this like expression in psych that I've heard a lot, is like neurons that fire together stay together. So it's the idea that like if you can come, actually I don't want to talk about that because there's a lot more there. But basically what I want to say is, if there is a thing, a new habit or a behavior, right, that you want to change or that you want to start to like incorporate into your life, sometimes you have to do things that don't exactly feel comfortable, right? They don't feel like natural, right? And that's like the question I think a lot of us have to ask is like, is this worth it? Yeah. So it's like, if I'm in a room, like going back to that example, if I'm in a room and I don't like everyone there, like, why would I sit there and like roll my eyes and suck my teeth, right?
Absolutely. It's like,
you know what will eventually happen is if you act as if, and this is something that I've been talking about for a few months now, if you act as if you look for the thing that's like positive and loving and caring, that's the thing that you'll cultivate.
oh, yeah.
You know, you have more openness and like there's more room there to be like accepting, et cetera.
And you
et
start
cetera.
to like what's been happening here is that all of a sudden my makeup starts to change and my reasoning for disliking all of those people shifts. Because a lot of times, like I'm pretty fortunate today that I have very few people that I don't fuck with.
Right.
But there's no one that I can't be in the same room with.
Yeah.
And that is the gift of recovery for me, that I can be in the same room. We don't have to like one another, but I want to wish you well and not wish you ill. And that's it. I love that the conversation was about motivation and all that, because I really feel like in getting to this place where we can start to make an amends and getting to this place where we can stop using, we have to, sometimes we need, like, you know how people talk about that window, that one window, that thing that allows us to kind of climb through, that shoves us through so that we can do, it's that momentum. Yeah.
Yeah. And momentum is something that needs to be built up. You know what I mean? And I think the misconception here, and then we should probably start wrapping up. Is it time for wrapping up? Yeah. The misconception about momentum is that it needs to look or sound a certain way. And what I've learned over the years in my recovery is that changes do not need to be human, like they don't have to be like earth shattering.
Yeah.
They just have to be intentional, and they can be small, but like you have to trust it. You know what I mean? You know,
and the best, I was gonna say, and the best part is that a lot of those changes are happening without you even knowing it.
Absolutely.
Like all of these little pieces are working
Absolutely.
together, and that's just that one thing that kind of kicks off the party.
Let me tell you something. You know how we say keep coming back? I did not get that shit years ago, but like here I am years later, and I'm like, oh, if I would have not keep coming back, if it would have not clicked,
and don't leave before
the miracle happens. You're like, I would have never. And I think that's true about so many different things. Like there are a few things, you know, I don't know how generalizable this is in the immediate, but there are a few things that with time cannot be softened, or like our perspective can't soften around it. I was just thinking about, don't know. Oh, but the last thing I wanted to say is I heard this years ago. I forget who said it, but I think it was like something about like nonviolent communication. Anyways, it was some theorist, and they were saying that if you're angry with, or it was something like if you knew more about people, you would be more loving and accepting, or some shit like that. And that has certainly been the case for me when I think about like. My favorite story to tell is like in the very beginning of recovery, there was this person in the rooms, and he was this like big guy. He was super buff, very loud. You know exactly who I'm talking about. And I hated him. I was like, oh my God, girl, you are so loud and you're all over the place. And I just was like, why are you like this? You know? And there was this one day I was like walking down the street, and I was having a really bad day, and he came up to me and put his arm around me. He's like, how are you doing? And I had like this new experience of him, right? But I was so stuck in my way of thinking about him, and he caught me off guard. And so I think what I'm trying to get at is that, like with all things, like if you, I'll speak for myself. If I leave myself open to having different experiences, then I will have a different experience.
Absolutely.
I just have to allow myself to get there.
Right on. The Castro Country Club is a safe and sober community center for all people and a refuge for the LGBTQ recovery community.
We provide programs and services that help people change their lives by supporting personal growth.
Yes, and our vision is to reduce the suffering of addiction by connecting people to community, opportunity, and support.
You can find more information, including all the ways to contact us, at www.castrocountryclub.org/podcast.
Yes, and tune in every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time when we go live on our Castro Country Club Facebook and YouTube channels.
Find us wherever you listen to podcasts.